Ghosts was a letdown and Advanced Warfare was poor. That first sentence right there probably determined whether you're going to continue or not. Yes, these are my thoughts on the Black Ops 3 beta, but let me build to it first. When Advanced Warfare came around, I wasn't someone who specifically wanted Call of Duty to remain boots on the ground, or for the game to go back to older Call of Duty settings. Nah, Call of Duty has to evolve, otherwise it will be left in the wake of other multiplayer first-person shooters. I mean, the options back then for a competent first-person shooter may range from Battlefield, Halo, or Call of Duty. Today, you can now add Titanfall, Destiny, and even Battlefront into that mix, and soon to be coming Rainbow Six Vegas. No, Rainbow Six Siege. So of course, Call of Duty has to evolve or die, and that's what Black Ops the Third feels like. An evolution of Black Ops 2. The problem with having three different developers working on the same Call of Duty title is sometimes jumping from a Treyarch to an Infinity Ward to a Sledgehammer game can feel so jarring that it doesn't seem as if there's a natural progression to things. And by that I mean the ideas that seem so obvious by one developer might not be for another. For example, the jump to a widescreen minimap from Black Ops 2 to Ghost improved navigation tenfold, and it was such an obvious progression seeing as the maps were getting bigger, which is why it seemed disingenuous for Sledgehammer's Advanced Warfare to reduce that progression to a simple perk. I mean, it's like jumping from a standard definition TV to an HD TV and then to a standard definition TV that has HD TV as an option, but only if you sacrifice your favourite channel. So yeah, since they reduced it to a perk, and one that wasn't even that useful compared to the other perks, some of which were crutches, blast suppressor, low profile, and toughness, Black Ops 3 is pretty much what Advanced Warfare should have been. I mean, that's the feeling I got when I was playing the beta. Coming from Ghosts, we were introduced to this double jump mechanic where you could now suddenly double jump, and the Advanced Warfare approach was you could boost up into the air at speed, while the Black Ops 3 thrust jumps are more slow and more of a gradual rise, and perhaps would have eased the transition to vertical movement a lot more than Advanced Warfare's approach would have. The maps, albeit they only showed off 4 in the actual beta, are colourful, punchy, and they seemed a lot more natural and look like an actual setting that had been tweaked for combat, rather than the Advanced Warfare approach of having a vertical first-person shooter map and then tweaked so it looks like a realistic setting. Of course, map design is a bit subjective, but can you honestly look at a map hunted and tell me that that map does not feel natural? Like, you can't imagine it being used for day-to-day activities before it was turned into a battle zone. Personally, I did not get that feeling from a lot of the maps in Advanced Warfare, or even Ghosts for that matter. Granted, when the setting for your story is a dystopian future, it really does give you a lot more leeway when designing maps, but I feel that's something that Treyarch does very well, giving you believable environments regardless of whether they actually play well or not. Now, it is a beta, so how these maps play out in the final build when you have access to all the perks and equipment you want is actually going to be quite different. As you can see, Black Cat is kind of one of the more overpowered perks, well, equipment, and is in need of a serious readjustment. But yeah, as for the perks, I think it's a good thing and a good start that, you know, they've gotten rid of the crutch perks like lightweight and toughness. People have criticised the perks, stating that they are weak and not as overpowered as they were previously, but shouldn't that be a good thing? Perks should be just that. I mean, perks, not crutches. Some of the perks do seem a tad bit too situational, like cold-blooded making you undetectable to thermal scopes and ground-based score streaks, where only about 3 or 4 of them are actually ground-based score streaks, and 2 or 3 of them are actually the high-end ones, so they're not even going to appear often, making you actually waste that perk. But the rest of them seem like they will help you if you have it, but not to the point where you can't do without it. And Having that balance is what's going to give the game a lot more variety, not having over 100 weapons variants where only 5 or 6 of them were actually useful. Speaking of weapons, gone are the variant system, though I'm unsure how the new gunsmith mode is going to work. The weapons all look fun to use and nothing really stands out as being overwhelmingly head and shoulders above the rest. At least not in the same way the BO3 in the AS1 eclipsed everything in Advanced Warfare, that you were actually at a disadvantage if you didn't use those two weapons. I mean, early in the PS4 beta, many did flock to the M8A7 and the Razorback for good reason. One burst was practically enough at a decent range, and the burst delay was practically negligible, though that has actually since been nerfed. And with the Razorback, I found it to be a little bit overrated, personally, but it did have a little recoil, and people found it better than an assault rifle at those cross-map shots, so yeah, I guess. Well, those two were at the top of the food chain, and to be honest with you, they'll most likely remain there even when the game is released and throughout its lifespan. But that's the same for any Call of Duty game, or any first-person shooter for that matter. The other weapons, though, are actually pretty good, with clear weaknesses and strength. The VMP, the Man of War, the Arc, and the Kuda, they will all see plenty of action outside of a trying it for a laugh setting, which, honestly, can you say the same for weapons like the SN6, AMR9, and the MK14 from Advanced Warfare? Earlier I said that natural progression between games is a good thing, and Advanced Warfare pretty much experimented with a pick 13 system where you were able to remove score streaks, and in hindsight it wasn't exactly perfect. I don't fault them for trying, but yeah, perhaps it was the poor's choice of score streaks, but people opted to dump score streaks for an additional perk or an extra attachment, and let's be honest, that made sense because things like perks and attachments are active throughout every life, where score streaks rewards were pretty much just that, rewards. It's good to see a healthy choice of score streaks once again, but personally I feel a mistake has been made in not being able to attach score streaks to your classes. It seemed like such an obvious progression when Ghost introduced it, and the fact that you're locked into your score streak means that one of the most powerful pieces of equipment in the game are actually the Black Hat and the Black Cell launcher. One of the things I enjoy about this game is the play and the counterplay aspect of it. If you're running into lots of explosives, put on Flak Jacket. If the enemy is sending out a whole bunch of UAVs, put on Ghosts, and so on. In the beta, it was hard to call in something like the Wraith or the Rap Deploy ship because they would get instantly hacked, and if they didn't get hacked, they would get instantly shot down, and I've been on both sides of it. And once that started happening, it was pointless earning certain score streaks, and to counter that, to counter the enemy's use of the Black Hat and the Black Cell, I personally, mid-game, would have just stopped running high score streaks and mid-match, and just ran things like the Hellstorm missiles, lightning strikes, or spammed the sky with countless UAVs and counter UAVs. You know, low-end score streaks to make them ask the question of whether they want to be preoccupied with things like clearing the skies or actually playing the objective. And the streaks themselves, they're a mixed bag, but again, it feels like a progression from Black Ops 2 streaks. Many of the old favourites return under new names like the Dragonfly or the Dragonfire, whatever it is. It's now named the Talon, and the AGR is now the Cerebus. The Stealth Chopper is now renamed the Wraith, and some of the streaks have been adapted for better or worse, but all in all, personally I think the streaks are still fun. Certainly a lot more so than Ghost in Advanced Warfare. Will they run rampant like they did in Black Ops 2? That's a tough question, but as things stand with the option to take them out, I really don't think so. So, what about the specialists? I mean, surely that has to upset the balance or something, but they really don't. So far, each of them has their uses, and there isn't really a terribly overpowered one, and nope, not even Reject, even before its nerf. And in all seriousness, what helps the game is how each weapon or ability has clear, distinct visual cues. This is actually crucial if you go up against them, so you can actually see the Reaper's scythe arm from a good distance. The Outrider's vision pulse actually shows up on your minimap, and it lets you pinpoint where the ability was actually activated. You've got Nomad, whose reject has a big massive green smoke surrounding him, and an electrical discharge when it actually activates. But yeah, these cues actually let you react accordingly without the player feeling as if there was nothing they could do about it. Unless you're someone that rages a lot regardless, there's very few times where you can say to a specialist death, well, that was complete BS. The specialist system is an interesting concept, even if it is lifted from games like Destiny and I guess Titanfall as well. Ensuring everyone is guaranteed a cooldown weapon or an ability to play with. Some might not like the Oprah Winfrey approach to these abilities and weapons, but just because you can get it doesn't mean you'll actually put it to the best use. I mean, it is easy to misuse your weapon or ability, essentially just wasting it. It's not a system I think will make it into the next Treyarch game, let alone the next Call of Duty, but as gimmicks goes, there could be a lot worse ones. All in all, I thought the beta was actually pretty enjoyable at this stage of development, and it ran pretty smoothly on the PS4, that is. Xbox One, not quite so much, but yeah. The issues with the game was going to be more on the technical side of things, such as the hit detection and the connectivity, important things for an online first-person shooter. But to Treyarch's credit, though, they were on top of that throughout the beta. I mean, the first day may have been plagued with the inability to reliably connect to any match, but Treyarch solved the problem and there was no such issues for the rest of the beta. The true test of the main release will be whether the game can launch without any such issues, and throughout its lifespan, can Treyarch be vigilant enough to fix the problems when they do arise, and believe me, they will arise. But whatever they do can't be worse than Sledgehammer's approach of breaking something with every patch they released. Based on the beta, the fun factor in COD is back, and it will be a day one purchase for me, along with the season pass.
Oh yeah. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Another one. Oh yes.